Hey guys, how you doing? It's Voodoo here and welcome to episode 33 in my Call of Duty Black Ops 2 Emblem editor series. Today we're taking a look at the Element Skateboards logo, which is an absolutely awesome logo. Very simple to do. You guys will have no problems replicating this in any way, shape or form. Also, the videos have been slowed down. In recent videos I've slowed them down. Obviously a lot of the guys from my early videos said, could you slow them down? Most of the time I can. There is times when I can't slow them down that much because I don't want to run much over 10 minutes really, because anything over 10 minutes is a bit long. But anyway, really straightforward to do. Looks absolutely spot on the player card. Love it. There's a bit of shading effects on there which we'll go through towards the end. Here's some of my previous emblems: Grim Reaper, Machinima, Noz, Element, Feed Me, Alpinestars, DC, Chem Block, and the Monster Energy logo. Monster Energy has been my most sort of favourite one on YouTube. People have watched that a lot. I think it's sitting about 86,000 views or something at the moment, so that's really been a success. Now, what we're going to do for the first part of this logo is you want to grab a circle. You want to max that out as big as you can in the grid, and then we're going to copy and paste circles on top of the circles and sort of scale them down just to give the sort of ring effect. And this way you can, rather than using the ring, it's easier to use a circle because you've got a complete sort of, you can free scale exactly how you want them to be and make the thickness of the circle exactly where it needs to be. So very straightforward. Once you've got the circles all in line, you can see I sort of make them a little bit bigger because otherwise the center tree thing wouldn't look very good. So make that as big as you possibly can, but with the ring still looking good. Once you've done that, you want to grab yourself a square or a rectangle or the eye or whatever has got straight edges, and you can just free scale that long. I change it black to go over to the left just to match the thickness of the upright to the actual like circle itself, because it's actually all the same thickness, and there's nothing worse than having sort of like odd thicknesses across so it doesn't go right the way across the image, because if you got something that's fatter than what it should be and the other bits are thin, it just looks rubbish. So make sure you get all your scaling right and it looks all the much better for it. Now what you want to do is grab a private first class and then free scale that just so it's sort of like sits near the top and near the edges. And I have sped this a little bit up in a moment just in the interest of time, but I use 3 private first classes for every single sort of bit of the tree. I class that as a tree. I assume it's a tree. I'm not 100% sure, but obviously elements outside trees, etc. So use 3 private first classes and just sort of free scale them, then copy and pasted them afterwards so they all look exactly the same, so you don't get like odd shaped private first classes. And just line them up on the image just right, and that'll be fine. If you enjoy this image or you've liked any other emblems, please hit the like button. Also in the description there is a link to the playlist. There's 32 other episodes to watch, loads of really cool emblems in there. A lot of you guys are really loving it and I appreciate the support, so check that out, hit the like button, I would really appreciate it. But once you've sort of lined these up, I found that perhaps that's easier to do the top one and the bottom one first, and then the middle one you can put in the middle. If you sort of line the middle one up second like I did on this video, that's a little bit more awkward to get them exactly right. You have to do a little bit more shuffling, but still it's not difficult, but it's just a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. So what I grabbed there is I grabbed an eye, or you can use a rectangle or whatever you want. You want to sort of just free scale that down, run that exactly on that center line and take it down towards the second layer, and then that will sit on top of the first circle that we put on there. And then we're going to just use 3 more of them, and you can sort of line that one up so it goes vertically on that vertical axis of the grid system. Then you want to bring that down to like layer 2 or 3, doesn't really matter as long as it lays on top of the base layer. And then you want to grab another one, put it up towards the top right hand corner of the box, that way it's gonna, and in the center of the box, that way it's gonna be exactly the angle we want it to be, so it's got to be nice and symmetrical, otherwise I go mad with my OCD. And then we do the same again for the other side, take it down to the second layer and then turn it black, and we are looking pretty damn good. Now that's the Element logo there. You don't need to do no more if you don't want to, apart from put this ring round the edge just to cover up the black bits that I've put on the lines. Once you've done that, that can be finished. But if you want to add shading effects, you can. There's various other sort of shading effects you can use, but I basically went for the sort of the staple sort of shading effect I use, and that way I grab it's a half column, max it right out, and then you get that fuzzy effect, which gives it a nice sort of blend as it goes in. Now the way I finished up with the opacity on that top one was 32%. That was the final opacity on that. Then I flipped it round to the copy and pasted, flipped it round to the bottom and turned it black, and changed the opacity down to 30% at the end is what I used. And then what we're going to do as well, we're going to add some other shading effects. See, what I do is with the top and bottom, you sort of like put it dark at the bottom and light at the top, and that adds a sort of, it looks a bit curved, it looks a little bit sort of, just a little bit more detail. You don't have to put them in like I said, but I prefer my images with them. Then what I've done now is I've grabbed an armchair, which is another really cool sort of shape that you can use for shading effects, and that's white, but I dropped the opacity in the end down to 19 on that side. That's where we leave the opacity on that, and I got it so it comes from sort of the center axis, the vertical axis, so from top to bottom, so it sort of sits in there just right, and that's where I want it. Then you want to copy and paste that across and flip it, and that way it changes the shape, so it's a bit like a leaf in a way, sort of like the shape of it. And the opacity on that is 8. I'll drop that down to 8 so you can hardly see it, but it just adds another sort of layer of finishing touch to it. And that's the emblem, guys, all done and dusted. Really pleased with that, really simple and effective, looks really cool on the gun. As always, please don't forget to rate, comment and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I shall see you in the next video. See you later, guys.